This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
We're glad to have you with us on a special edition of Real Talk. In this episode, a very special visitor. We've got somebody visiting from Holland that's here in our home province of Alberta ahead of the 80th anniversary of D-Day. We're going to be talking about that. I know that Canadians are going to be, many of them, headed over to Normandy, France to observe that occasion. We're going to be talking about that. This show has been proud to support the flag sponsorship program that's all connected to this, the legacy of Canadian servicemen and women in World War II, in particular around D-Day, and the liberation of Holland. And Dennis Meijeringh is going to join us in studio about a half hour into the episode today to talk about that very special and unique connection that the Dutch have with Canadians, why that is, and how these legacy keepers of Canadian heroes to this day are remembering the contributions, the sacrifice that the Canadian soldiers played coming up on 80 years ago in the liberation of Holland. We're also going to be focusing on the news of the day with Charles Adler. That coming up in just a moment. Johnny, I'm not sure if you saw it, but on Twitter this morning, I know this is not a sports show. I know that we don't dedicate too much time to talking about playoff battles, but Mick Crybaby is trending on Twitter this morning. Mick Crybaby, they're calling the greatest player in the history of the sport.
I saw the hashtag and I did my part. I did not view the tweets. I'm not giving any of those hatred tweets any views today, Ryan.
Well, I'll tell you what, the cynic in me, or maybe it's the strategist in me, utilized that trending word and integrated it into the tweet promoting our show today. I said, we're going to talk to Charles Adler about Mick Crybaby trending, but on the record, and for those of you going, what on earth are you talking about? A vicious assault on 97 at the end of last night's game. If you're listening to this on Monday, we're doing this show on May 13th. This is game 3 of that hotly contested Oilers-Canucks series. And at the end of the game, McDavid slashes a Vancouver defenseman, Carson Soucy, who then just gives it to him, a cross-check right in the face. Everybody's wondering, what's this going to mean for Soucy, for McDavid, for the rest of this series? I'm sure Adler wants to chime in. And then we'll transition away from sports. If you were paying attention to the news cycle over the weekend, you probably saw a demonstration, a demonstration at the University of Alberta, a Pro-Palestine demonstration broken up. I'm going to use the word violently by police because I don't know what other word to use, batons swinging and the like. And you know, my social media feed, if it's anything like yours, there's a little bit of both perspectives on this. Some people saying, good on the University of Alberta for clearing this up. Good on this is private property. The University of Alberta's right to do so. They can do this. They've warned these demonstrators. They don't want this at the U of A. The U of A is releasing a statement, which we'll get into with Charles, saying that, police found, screwdrivers and hammers and needles on site, I think trying to sort of spin a narrative here. I'm not taking a position on the protest. I am going to take a position on the police action, and we're going to show you the video. There's one cop in particular that looks like he's just lost his marbles, swinging a baton at people that were bleary-eyed and sleeping at 5 a.m. So we'll get into that. Plus, Tim Horton's woke coffee lids. Thank goodness that one hero, Canadian member of Parliament, is taking a stand. She's using her public-funded hours in office, these well-funded hours in office, to release videos reminding us that she's going to fight against the new lids, Tim Horton's new woke coffee lids. Thank God for politicians. Of course, in a positive reflections, this is a really fun one presented by Kuby Energy today. This is an initiative that started a long time ago, recognizing one of Canada's all-time great exports. I'm sure you know, obviously, the actor Nathan Fillion.
Who doesn't?
Well, before Fillion was kind of a big deal down in California and around the world, of course, the pride of Edmonton.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been looking for ways to recognize and celebrate his career and his contributions to the arts in Canada and around the world, and so that's where we'll go with positive reflections. Before we get the show started, though, this show is presented, a very special initiative, and we want to direct your attention to junobeach.org. As mentioned, the 80th anniversary of D-Day is approaching, and there's great resources for you to better understand why this is significant, not just to Canada, obviously, but in Europe and around the world. If you check out junobeach.org, you can see the amazing work that the Juno Beach Centre Centre does every day to this day and moving beyond, thanks to the conviction and contributions of many, many people. It's Canada's Second World War Museum and Cultural Centre. This is located in Normandy, France, and it pays homage to the 45,000 Canadians. Think about that, 45,000 who lost their lives during the war, 5,500 killed during the Battle of Normandy, and 381 on D-Day. Now, this is our way to support the initiatives that recognize and forever remember these incredible contributions and honor our heroes. And one way that you can get involved is by sponsoring a Canadian flag at the Juno Beach Centre. We've been proud to do so here at Real Talk. We have one of these flags, as a matter of fact, displayed in our studio. This is an amazing initiative. Year-round, the Canadian flag flies at the Juno Beach Centre at Normandy Beach, and they replace those flags on the regular. They got to keep them obviously looking good. They honor that flag. Well, by sponsoring a flag, you can make sure that these flags are well funded. You can ensure that these flags continue to fly over Normandy, and you can have in your home, your office, wherever you'd like to proudly display this flag, a flag that has flown over Normandy Beach. It's really an incredible opportunity. You can check out more on the flag sponsorship program at junobeach.org, and we'll link to it in the show notes on the podcast and on YouTube. This program is proudly presented by the flag sponsorship program at junobeach.org. Charles Adler, our guest, the first episode of every week. And Chuck, I know that you and probably most Canadians were watching the game last night as the Edmonton Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks square off, tied one game apiece, coming back into Edmonton. And, of course, a battle ensues, as you might expect, the Canucks taking this one 4-3. But at the end of the game, there's an interaction between Oilers superstar Connor McDavid and Vancouver's two defensemen, Nikita Zadorov and Connor Soucy. And as you can see, McDavid slashes Soucy in the pants, and then Zadorov gets McDavid with a cross-check from behind, and then Soucy there, and we'll show you a different angle, these clips courtesy of Sportsnet. But as you can see here, McDavid taking one right in the chops. Here's a different angle on that, and as you can see here, 97 takes a stick right what appears to be in the jaw, maybe right below his mouth. Your thoughts as Mick Crybaby is trending on Twitter today. Nobody feeling sorry for the world's greatest player.
Well, we're living in an age of cruelty, and we can discuss that in a number of ways, Ryan. But one of the areas of cruelty is the glorification of that kind of violence, and I don't know what else to call it, but violence. I realize the NHL world calls it cross-checking, which is technically what it is. But in the real world, that is an assault. That level of vicious is an assault. And to call Connor McDavid a crybaby is ridiculous. Remember, when you're cross-checking somebody, just like when you're assaulting somebody with a baseball bat or something called a hockey stick, it doesn't matter. You don't know exactly where they're going to be, and you don't know exactly where your lumber is going to be. So a cross-check to the mouth is very, very close to a cross-check to the throat. You want to cross-check someone on the windpipe, you can kill them. I'm not here to hype it. I'm here to describe it, because that's what I do. And there's only one way to describe this: criminal.
So, yeah, people are today wondering, what's the Department of Player Safety going to do? Are they going to protect their stars, so to speak? Is George Parros going to do something here? If you don't, my concern is for the rest of the series, if Soucy's not suspended here for this turns into a melee. This in my mind, if trends in hockey or in sport indicate anything, if the league doesn't step in and administer consequential discipline here, then the Oilers players will, and this could get nastier and nastier, and probably could be bad news for Vancouver's superstars.
Look, when you're running a hockey team, the number one thing you're worried about, especially in the playoffs, is the distraction of message sending. Every player, every team wants to send a message to another team, and it's always about revenge. We get that. But if the NHL wants to make sure that the focus is not distracted by this kind of violence, then they've got to crack down on it. If you don't, this becomes the game. And I get a little sick and tired of people saying, I don't know why the Americans identify hockey with violence. Are you kidding me? How do you identify it when you see something like that? especially if it goes unpunished.
Yeah. So this, in my mind, there's really no decision to be made. I mean, I guess the decision is like how many games the suspension is for.
Yeah.
Feels like 1, maybe 2. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll expect that ahead of Tuesday's game. Johnny, you were presiding over the outdoor party. Thousands of people, obviously, in attendance. You're the official DJ for that big party. What was the mood there? Obviously, a bit of a kick in the teeth, the loss to Vancouver to go down 2-1 in the series. But what was the vibe when people saw the replay of that?
It was a very weird night because you had the smoke. It's the end of a weekend. You got Mother's Day. So the vibe wasn't like it has been all through the playoffs, and really nervous the whole game. But at the end of the game when this happened, super nerves, anxiety, because we just scored a goal. We've got about a minute and a half left. When this happened at the end of the game, everyone in the crowd outside in Ice District was like, "Oh!"
Yeah.
And I tend to disagree. I think what'll happen is player safety will look at it, and I don't want to come down on them, but they've been getting it wrong so much. I see a fine. I don't see a suspension. I see them saying he went to cross-check him in the chest. The cross-check from behind made him go forward. That's why he got hit in the face. But I've been noticing this a lot, and I'll agree with Charles. It is getting so – and I know the playoffs is chippier, right? You let things go, but the cross-checks to the back now, and I know the back is protected somewhat by equipment, but man, I'm seeing Draisaitl get hit by JT Miller. I'm seeing Canucks get hit by Oilers, and they are ruthless with these cross checks to the back where you can literally end someone's career, and it's going unnoticed. It's not getting called. I feel like I know there's a million rules in hockey, and you can't call everything because the game would be slow and it would be horrible, but some of these vicious cross checks they're just getting crazy.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, John Henry's in our chat, and Johnny, if you can show my screen here, John Henry in the chat says, well, Mick Crybaby.
Yeah, this was not good either.
Cut Quinn Hughes, and there was no call there. This the game before. This was McDavid who gets his stick up.
Yeah.
I think it's unintentional, to say the least, but maybe I'm a homer here. Gets his stick up. He cuts Vancouver's captain in the face. There's no call on it.
No.
And you can see Quinn Hughes was leaking there, that footage courtesy of Sportsnet. So, and then Seventh Pilot in the chat says, geez, you guys, says hockey stuff like this happens all the time. Don't make a world event out of it.
Yeah,
it's
it's pretty bad right now.
It's pretty bad.
It's really bad this year. And another thing, Evander Kane getting loaded into the bench by Zadorov.
Yeah.
And you can see, I don't know if it's because Fogle hit his leg or not, but I think he tried.
His leg came up.
His leg came down. Like
You don't think he was trying to kick Zadorov, do you?
I don't think McDavid tried to hit him. I don't think Zadorov tried to do that. I don't think Sosi was trying to break McDavid's neck, but I think everyone tries to do a little bit towards the line, and when the playoffs are going as fast as they are, like somebody's going to get really hurt. And it only takes one person's career getting ended for this all to not be fun anymore, right? So I just think the NHL next game maybe just crack down a little more on the stuff that's going to the back and the face. Watch this leg come down right here.
Yeah.
Now, if that was a cut to the face, I don't know there. And you can see Fogle kind of pushes his leg, which I don't know. And then he smiles because he thinks he's getting a penalty, but then he got one too. And the penalty actually was on, or sorry, not Fogle. Fogle gave him a little shot, Zadorov, here on the bench. And so they called a penalty.
Yeah, I don't know. Does he intentionally kick? I mean, well, he
90
does
there. I think it
drop
was
the
Perry.
heel, doesn't he? He kind of does drop the heel. Anyway, it's getting nasty in this series.
I saw the coach this morning. I saw Knobloch outside our studio. I told you this, Ryan. So I'm walking in this morning, and he's walking right by the door as I come in. I see Knobloch. And I did a double take, like, why isn't this guy in the underground parkade? Maybe he's taking a walk. Maybe he's taking a breather after a tough game last night. Have you ever said something so stupid? Like, have you ever been in a drive-thru and somebody hands you your food and is like, have a great meal. And you're like, you too. And you drive off and you're like, oh man, that's not how you're supposed to talk. So this morning I'm like, hey, Knobs. First of all, I call him Knobs.
Knobs.
I don't know if that's a thing, but I'm like, I turn back around, I open the door, I say, hey, Knobs. He's like, hey. I'm like, good game last night. And I shook his hand and I walk inside. And the first thing I thought was, I got to tell Ryan this because that was just bad. But technically,
how did he respond?
He said, thank you. He was very polite. He said, thank you, man. And he shook my hand, but like not technically wrong. I thought he coached a good game. So it was a good game and it was very close. But this series, I think we're going to 7 here. This is 1-goal games every single game, back and forth. I think it's going to go right to 7.
Yeah,
that's my idea.
Yeah. Hey, I love to see the passion, and you would expect nothing less, Chuck. I was honored to host a fundraising gala event in Vancouver, the beautiful Vancouver Convention Center this weekend, and when it leaked that I was from Edmonton. And I was the leaker of that information. The response in the crowd, I had to work a little bit to win them back, and as you might expect. But the series is delivering. We'll by next week, you and I will have some interesting fodder for sure, as this thing could be wrapped up by then. But I'm with you, Johnny. I think for sure it's going 7. Chuck, you no doubt saw this. Everybody saw this footage. We're going to show the video posted by that Yag Wave Instagram account. This is like the new 6 o'clock news, by the way, Yag Wave. Everybody sends their videos there. But around 5 in the morning, this is over the weekend, University of Alberta, I suppose, invited Edmonton police onto what is private property to break up an encampment, a pro-Palestine protest, and 3 people reportedly arrested at the time for charges including assaulting a police officer, trespassing, obstruction. But look at this here. You're looking at the one cop in the middle here, just absolute, like swinging a baton like multiple times, hitting people that are clearly like laying on the ground, reportedly sleeping. Now I've only seen this small bit of video. I haven't watched like 3 or 4 or 5 hours of video to get the sense of what the vibe was there. Witnesses on scene say that for the most part, people were sleeping, docile, that this was some downtime, that this was a peaceful protest. I know people have different opinions on campus protests across Canada. Obviously, it's been a huge story in the United States as well. Columbia University is a big example there, UCLA as well. But your thoughts out of the gates in seeing that video at the University of Alberta over the weekend?
Have we confirmed that's an Edmonton cop? Because to me, it looks like a Vancouver Canuck.
Yeah, jeez. Fair play.
By the way, Johnny, you know I love you, and our chemistry's getting hotter and hotter. But if you ever call me Knobs at 7 o'clock in the morning,
right?
You're getting cross-checked. You're getting cross-checked by a double-double.
I'm gonna have nightmares about this for weeks. Just going to bed. I'm just in my head is gonna be Knobs.
It's like
good game, Knobs, good game, like echoing.
This is a George Costanza situation.
It
where
is.
You're going to be like lying awake thinking of what you should have said to the Oilers
Jesus.
coach when you ran into him at 7 in the morning outside our studio.
Anyways.
But in all seriousness, I mean, this is serious business for a lot of people. Like this is a really, really, really tough look for the University of Alberta. You've had some tenured professors, spitting fire since this has happened. The university doubling down on it with a statement. The Jewish Federation of Edmonton supporting the move. What's your take on it, Chuck?
Well, my take on it is that this is a free country, despite what some of the freedom riders like to say. I'm not talking about just the convoy people. There are a bunch of other people who are, saying that Canada's broken and we're no longer free. But certainly when cops respond to a peaceful protest with batons, that supports those people who say that the country is broken. I get why the university looks at what's happening on other universities. They see this train a million miles away, and they don't want to be part of it. They know it just gets more and more complicated, and so they want to put an end to it immediately. I highly doubt that anybody at the university wanted the cops swinging batons at people who are half asleep at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. So this, I mean, I understand, why some people are furious about this for sure. And like I said, some people are standing up in support of this. Like I'll show you this tweet here. This from Edmonton's Jewish Federation at Jewish Edmonton on Twitter. We commend the leadership of University of Alberta, they say, and Professor Flanagan, or rather President Flanagan, for enforcing its policies. We commend the Edmonton police for carrying out their duties and removing the encampment. They say universities have the right and obligation to administer their rules to ensure the safety of students, staff, and faculty. On the flip side, I think universities also have a role and a mandate to ensure that there's freedom of thought, freedom of expression. To me, a demonstration like this should be more safe or more permitted to exist in theory and in otherwise at a university than anywhere else, almost regardless. I mean, with perhaps with some extreme exceptions, but regardless of what it's about or what it's for, right? Like it seems like a really tough look for a post-secondary institution.
There are ways of demonstrating, and I have a feeling, I could be wrong about this, just my gut. My gut tells me that the universities, based on the experience of other universities in recent weeks, are seeing one thing. Encampments are trouble. Encampments invite not only people who are at the university, but a lot of outsiders, and that almost always means trouble. And I have a feeling, I'm not trying to, blame the victim here, but I have a feeling that this method of demonstration of setting up an encampment is what's triggering universities, not just in Alberta, but elsewhere, to ask the cops to please come in and fix it.
Yeah. So, I get like people are making, obviously people feel differently in the live chat. I'm not surprised. Kenzie says, well, they were there illegally. I mean, I guess, others are saying, we live in a police state. Why are people surprised? Folks are saying that, the only danger we saw to staff and students are cops swinging batons. I mean, I thought the release from the university as well is a little bit comical, to be honest with you. They say that, police discovered screwdrivers and hammers and needles. I don't know. My guess is
I got to say that's foolish.
Well,
and I don't
the
know
needle's probably in naloxone kits.
Well, no, but if you're going to make that kind of statement, we live in a very visual age, okay, where people demand evidence, where people are cynical about all authorities, including the authorities who are governing universities. So if you're going to talk about potential weapons, that kind of threat, that kind of danger, show me, baby. Show me. I want to see the screwdrivers. I want to see the other weapons. Don't just tell me in a press release, because that just tells me that somebody is wanting to quash criticism by scaring people. That's not right.
Yeah, and nobody believes. I don't think. I'm referencing some independent journalism here. We're showing other video. This is at the University of Calgary's campus just a short time ago. I mean, this is really like it's heating up, to state the obvious. And I just think here, like, there needs to be measured approach to this. I think obviously universities are probably weighing the exact types of factors that we're talking about here today as well. But to me, it's in poor faith, the announcement that the university makes. I mean, like needles and hammers, and nobody believes that those were intended to be used maliciously or for purposes of assault or to attack students. They're putting up tents. That's probably why there's a hammer for tent pegs. I mean, to me, I think common sense and calm, sort of like rational approach needs to be paramount here, because like we talked about in hockey and here on campuses, maybe not to lazily compare the two scenarios or situations, but the more that this heats up, the worse this gets. And I don't know, man. I just think that this is universities do have a mandate and a responsibility to protect faculty and students. But at the same time, these things have to be done the right way. And I just don't think swinging batons and smashing people, at 5 a.m. as they're laying on the ground, to me, it's also like a bigger picture when it comes to like policing tactics. I'm not a cop, but like I do have to say, like, police and the public have a tough relationship sometimes, and that type of thing can like erase like months or years of advocacy and good work by a lot of the police officers that are out there dealing with and building relationships with the public. You get one guy in there that's just been itching and waiting to use that baton for months to go in there and go hog wild. I mean, if you watch that video, and I've watched it several times, I knew we were going to be talking about it, so I wanted to watch it. But it's a remarkable video, because you can see like the one cop that's swinging the baton and that just starts like going at students. There's another cop that actually like puts his hand on his shoulder and stops him, like kind of tries to get him to chill out. You know what I mean? And I don't know, man. I just think that that's a really, really tough look, and it erases a lot of the good work and a lot of the community work that police officers are doing. And once the public starts to lose faith here, like we start asking, like, is it justified to be using this amount of force in this situation? Like, is that justified in the least? And based on limited video, I keep wanting to put that caveat out there, based on the limited exposure that we have to this situation, I just have a hard time believing that use of force is justified. So I think that, the university doubling down on this is a tough look. It remains to be seen what the implications will be for for faculty in this matter. More and more professors, and some of them are tenured professors across the country that have had a connection to the University of Alberta, speaking out on this. That's a tough look for the university. It's a tough look for President Flanagan. They've obviously planted their flag on this one, though, so they'll go with it.
Pardon me for my tough look, blowing my nose there. Didn't mean to do that, but I was just worried about what might happen if I got a little energized go. And we started talking about Tim Hortons or hockey again.
Why don't we go to that? You want to go to the Tim Hortons story?
I'd love to. I'll just say this. I'm a pro-cop guy. I don't pretend not to be. One of the reasons I'm pro-cop, and one of the reasons most people in Canada are pro-cop, is not just because they make large sacrifices in all kinds of ways to protect us and to defend us, but also because they're highly professional. So if you got the odd duck who isn't highly professional, I would say this: thank you to the police officer who put the mitts on him, trying to get him to, as Ryan said a few moments ago, chill out.
Yeah.
The police officer who put the collar on his fellow cop, that's my kind of cop. That's a pro. That's what we respect in this country of law.
Yeah. I don't often say I'm like pro cop, but I do recognize the incredible calling that it is to work in law enforcement. I think that, I wouldn't do it for any amount of money, to be honest with you. So I've got a lot of respect for a lot of the people that do it. And I do think that there's people in law enforcement that have no business being in law enforcement. But I also might just be jaded, Johnny, because I was pulled over and basically
I was going to say
treated. I'm not going to drag this onto the air, but I was treated very unfairly by a police officer a while ago. And I'm going to fight that in court.
Ryan's been targeted.
Charles, I was issued 5 tickets in one pullover.
But
and none of them speeding. None of them side because I was not speeding, but I'm not going to get into it because nobody needs to listen to this.
But seriously, is there a tougher job than waking up every morning and knowing you might not come back?
And that's my thing, is like when a police officer is injured or killed in the line of duty, everybody is reminded of the role they play and how you never know, like walking up to a vehicle, if that's going to be the day where something goes sideways. Mm-hmm. So I got a lot of respect for a lot of police officers. I also acknowledge that law enforcement has warts that need to be acknowledged, and we've talked about that a lot on this show. So listen, it is what it is at this point, and more than anything, I'm curious to know where Real Talkers are going to land on this. Obviously, there's a lot of talk in the chat here. talk@ryanjesperson.com is where you can send us a message. Let us know what you make of this, the demonstrations across Canada and around the world. What's the right way for universities to handle them? Charles Adler is presented on Real Talk every Monday by our friends at Tice Automotive Consulting, and I want to put them on your radar. If you're in the market for a vehicle, it could be a new vehicle, it could be gently used, but walking into a dealership, there's just something about it. It's just not your thing. Maybe you're afraid you're going to get ripped off. Maybe you just don't have time. Check out TiceAutomotive.com. They believe that buying a vehicle should be fun, and Tice can make that happen. I love how they work. They talk to you real quick. They get a sense of what are you looking for. SUV, car, coupe, convertible, motorcycle, whatever it is. New, gently used. What's your budget? What's your price range? Heck, what color do you want it to be? With so many makes and models out there, it can be tough to determine which vehicle meets your lifestyle needs and your budget. Tice will help you figure that out. They're going to make your wallet happy, and they do it all for one flat rate. Plus, they have a subscription service you can sign up for. It's optional. They give you the white glove service. They'll take your vehicle to get its oil changed. They'll give you an annual mechanical analysis, let you know what's coming up so you can budget for it. It's all part of the services when you go with Tice Automotive Consulting, proud presenting sponsor of Charles Adler Weekly, right here on Real Talk. Our friends at Friesen Brothers want to thank everybody that made Friesen Brothers part of their Mother's Day plan with those wonderful charcuterie boxes. Don't forget, the first of every month, Friesen Brothers has you covered with 15% off all grocery purchases of $75 or more. That's the first of every month. Plus, their garden centers are open right now. They've got the locally grown flowers, shrubs, everything that you need to get your garden going at the start of the season. Friesen Brothers, for coming up on 70 years, has been proudly Alberta grown and Alberta owned. You can learn more at friesen.com. And Johnny, we got an email here into our inbox, and I absolutely love this stuff. This is from Beverly. We always ask our Real Talkers to let us know when you connect with one of our partners and have a good experience. So Beverly says, Jespo, we're in a renovation process as we speak. I heard you talking about California closets. I figured they'd be like way out of our league price-wise, but I figured it couldn't hurt, like you said, because the consultation's free. So I got in touch with them to to get a quote. We get multiple quotes as part of our renovation. Beverly says, was I ever impressed with our meeting? She says, watching the 3D visualization of the possibilities on the computer was incredible. I can't say enough about that. Beverly says, I was so surprised by the options for maximizing storage in our tiny little walk-in closet, and I was equally stunned when I saw what it was going to cost. It's within our budget. Holy smokes, and a lifetime warranty. Beverly says, I would not have even considered California closets if it hadn't have been for the rave reviews on Real Talk. So I want to thank you for hiring and highlighting this Edmonton company. Beverly has hired California Closets, and we recommend you do what she did. Check out the free consultation. You tell them your budget, they show you what it can look like, and next thing you know, everybody's happy. That's CaliforniaClosets.ca. All right, everybody thinks... No, not everybody thinks. That's irresponsible. Some people think, Charles, that the new Tim Hortons coffee lids are too woke. They're too woke. Tim Hortons has gone woke, and if you go woke, you go broke. And some folks are saying they're not going to take their coffee business to Tim Hortons anymore, and that, I guess, includes Leanne Rood, who's a member of Parliament. Here is her courageous video post taking on the issues that truly matter to Canadians.
Well, Canada, this is the last straw. I mean, lid. Really, Tim Hortons? Paper lids that disintegrate in your mouth? Come on. This is just another example of something trying to help the environment when it's actually going to have the opposite effect. If we have a plastic lid, at least it's recyclable. But this, disintegrating in your mouth as you're trying to drink your coffee? No thanks. I don't know about you, but until Tim Hortons gets rid of this paper lid, I'm done with Tim Hortons.
Okay, so she's done with Tim Hortons. She went on further in a post on Twitter referencing a pretty infamous quote from her boss right now, talking about Justin Trudeau's drug policy, in BC, calling it wacko. Everybody remembers that. We chatted about that before. She says, we've overlooked Tim Hortons' wacko menu items, but now their coffee doesn't even work like coffee anymore. She's declaring war on the Canadian institution. Your thoughts?
Well, my thinking is that the people involved in public life right now have such a low opinion of us. The people who are paid good bucks to represent us have such a low opinion of us, think that we're such morons, that this is what they want to spend their time with. That they think in a country where people are taking seriously the lack of affordability, whether it comes to food or shelter, that this is what people are worried about, the so-called woke lids at Tim Hortons. And if ever you want to turn woke into a total joke, if ever you want to be on the wrong side of anti-wokeism, just protest stuff that doesn't matter. And this doesn't. But the big picture to me is this public servant has zero respect for the public.
Yeah, I just think, and I love this, Bunny Slipper says, clearly nothing is more important than Timmy's lids. What a joke here. Others are saying, I don't know, instead of Tim Hortons lids, maybe we could try to fix the collapsing healthcare system. I'm not sure if that might be something that we want to spend some time on. And then, of course, there are those as well that are saying that, you know what, we do need, Michael says, I'm just getting so tired of people using the word woke, that communist, socialist, fascist, everybody rolling these out. Somebody says we need a word for somebody that's trying to capitalize on these types of scenarios to whip up anger. What's the word for that? Yeah,
the word is parasitism. That's what this is. This is parasitism. I'm sorry. Someone who's making well over $150,000 a year to represent us on those serious issues. You mentioned the healthcare system. We mentioned housing. We mentioned the price of food. We could talk about infrastructure. We could talk about law and order. We could talk about drug addiction. There are a lot of things to talk about. If you are basically saying that you think the public is so stupid, so moronic, so idiotic, that you think this is what the public wants you to spend your time on, I'm sorry. You're out of line.
Donald Trump comparing migrants. You knew that we were going to roll this clip, Charles. You knew I was going to ask you about this. There's just it's kind of your weekly dose of the Donald. The weekly dose of the Donald, this time invoking, admittedly, one of Hollywood's great all-time movie characters, but not to make light of this, because he finds a way to compare Hannibal Lecter to migrants in a curious speech just a couple of days ago. Here's the Donald.
Silence of the Lambs. Has anyone ever seen the Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner. Remember the last scene? Excuse me, I'm about to have a friend for dinner as this poor doctor walked by. I'm about to have a friend for dinner, but Hannibal Lecter, congratulations, the late, great Hannibal Lecter. We have people that are being released into our country that we don't want in our country.
So he goes on to talk about migrants, comparing them ultimately to cannibal Hannibal Lecter. Now, I know we shouldn't be surprised at anything with this guy, who could very well be the next president of the United States, but how did the comment land with you?
Well, there are thousands of real stories of real moms, and I'm thinking about Mother's Day and the belated happy Mother's Day to your wife and your mom, and to everyone else's spouse and mom, everyone else who's a male whose spouse is a. Anyway, here's the thing. I don't want to beat around the bush. You've got real moms with 2, 3, 4, 5 kids who are trying to get into the United States, not to sell fentanyl, but to save their kids. They are literally going to the United States, taking all kinds of chances and dealing with all kinds of reprobates who are parasites, who are making money off them to give them some sort of so-called protection. Okay, so they're paying these people whatever little money they have to go to the United States to try to save their children's lives. And here's a guy who's most likely to be president of the United States. All the polls show it. The polls haven't changed since October. It's very likely that Donald Trump is the next president. We got the next president accusing these moms of being cannibals, which, in case not everyone knows, is a person who eats human beings, a person who murders and devours human flesh. I'm sorry. I mean, I get, once again, we're in an age of cruelty, but where is the floor? Because it just seems to me every time there's a floor, someone like Donald Trump goes subterranean and goes underneath the floor. Where's the floor, Ryan Jesperson, for cruelty?
Well, we keep looking for it, and as long as the comments like this keep resonating, and people keep laughing at them, and probably as long as people like us keep talking about them, but how can you not? That's the battle that I always wage in my own brain, right? It's like, do you amplify the comments to talk about them and put them on people's radar and analyze them and ensure that it's not just normalized, but by talking about it, you amplify it. And this is like a kind of a mental wrestling match, an ethical wrestling match that talk show hosts and producers and members of the general public have had for decades, if not centuries, right? Like decades,
it's the occupational
for sure.
hazard of every broadcaster or podcaster. It's the occupational hazard that by shining the light on something, that's something that we're shining the light on, that piece of toxic mucus is now possibly getting normalized because possibly we're giving legitimacy to it. But I mean, in good conscience, what on earth are we going to do about that? We can't just talk about charts and graphs. We can't just talk about the fact that most children across the street get to the other side, and isn't that nice? We've got to talk about the stuff that matters.
It's true. Does it matter that NDP Alberta leadership candidate Naheed Nenshi referred to Conservative MLAs over the weekend as monkeys?
Well, if he were working for a certain corporation that we're aware of, he might get fired for that.
That was chimps. Chimps.
I'm sorry. To me, when you're part of the same, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. For people that don't get the reference, I was reminded of it several times over the weekend by people who figure it's not too soon anymore, and it's not.
Right.
Asking me how I felt about Nenshi's comments, referring to the Conservative MLAs as monkeys. I, of course, famously referred to a particular staffer of former city councilor. I referred to the staffer as a chimpanzee typing out idiotic tweets. The staffer, a middle-aged white male, but of course the words were twisted, and as you know, with the influence from Alberta's Premier's office at the time, I was fired by Chorus Radio. So that's the reference.
And you were accused of not just fired, you were accused of being racist.
Yes, I was accused of being racist towards a white guy. But I mean, I don't want to be too glib and joke about this, but does it? I mean, I saw sort of like some people some conservatives, friends of mine, including, our friend Erica Baruti's, co-host of the Discourse political podcast, Eric, over the weekend going, oh my God, tweeting about it. Like, did Naheed Nenshi really call the conservative MLAs monkeys? But like, does anybody actually care? I think it probably depends who says it and who the target of the insult is. If the target is a person of color, the comment is very problematic, most especially if the person making the comment is white, okay, like just to spell it out. But in this circumstance, I don't know if it hurts Nenshi. I don't know if people actually care about it. What do you think?
I think if he's got a message to send and he's a professional, send the message. Don't step on your own message, and don't give an opportunity to your political enemies to get the leg up on you. So I would say, if I were advising the person who's most likely to be the next NDP leader of Alberta, to just be a little more targeted in his messaging. And I'm positive that Naheed Nenshi would say exactly the same thing if he were advising someone.
Yeah.
Be focused when you're sending a message, especially when it's a message that is meant to be vicious and vitriolic. You end up with the vitriol all over your face if you use the wrong word.
Yeah. M. Aitken says, well, MLAs are definitely puppets, maybe monkey puppets. Somebody else, 80s Fanify, says, I would use the term flying monkeys. I don't know if we're going to split hairs over this kind of stuff. How about this, though? Like Kenzie says, people cared when Trudeau was called wacko. What's the difference? Let me say this. There's no difference if Pierre Poilievre says that like in an apple orchard, or if Pierre Poilievre says that at a rally in Saskatoon. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter at all. It's the fact that he said it in the House, right? That's really the only reason why that mattered. It's not an outrageous comment. I mean, Poilievre has called Trudeau worse, but when you do it in the House, that's the difference.
Yeah. What mattered there is that the Speaker was willing to give Poilievre his dignity and say, okay, fine, you said what you said, you have a chance to take it back.
Yeah.
And then childishly, he decided not to take it back because from his fundraising, I guess, perspective, this was an opportunity to create something out of nothing, something that would return clicks and cash to the Conservative Party of Canada. So it's no wonder that Conservative fundraisers love the guy. But that was a cheap shot to make once again, on the public dime in the People's House, the House of Commons.
Yeah. Charles Adler, every week here on Real Talk, exclusively presented by our friends at Tice Automotive Consulting. You can check out what they do at ticeautomotive.com. Chuck, we'll talk to you next Tuesday. Have a very happy May long weekend.
And I just want to remind drivers that if you drive a Tice automotive vehicle, unlike Ryan Jesperson's experience with his non-Tice vehicle, you will not get stopped by an Alberta cop.
Yeah.
Go to Tice Automotive. You will never get stopped by a cop.
Okay, yeah. We're going to hear from the team at Tice. Like, well, we can't exactly guarantee that. Well, we do appreciate the promotion. I
wouldn't do this for anybody, but I'm big on client services.
Yeah, there you go. I like it, Chuck. We'll talk to you again soon. Yeah, maybe the team at Tice Automotive would have talked to me about. I'm not going to sit here and bitch about it. I'm not going to. I made you the promise. But they may have said, hey, there are certain modifications to your car, Ryan, that if you ran into the wrong cop on the wrong day, a cop who was having a bad day, maybe he found a hair in his salad at lunch or something like that. There are several modifications on your vehicle that could draw the ire of a police officer. Yeah. I'm sure that they would have informed me of that.
I'll tell you this, Ryan. The truck nuts on the back and the fuck Trudeau sticker, they're not helping you.
It was the truck nuts. That definitely did not do me any favors, especially with my car. It's lowered a little bit, so those truck nuts are just dragging on the pavement, throwing sparks, and I think that might have been what drew the cop's ire. Lauren, who's a former Edmonton Fire District Chief, and I know this because Lauren and I had a chance to hang out at an Oilers game a while ago. I like that Lauren took me up on his offer. I said, if I ever see Real Talkers out in the wild, and we put them out on a case-by-case basis. This is not an open offer forever. But I said, before a particular sporting event, I said to Real Talkers, if you see me out in the wild at this event, come up to me and I'll buy you a beer. Lauren did exactly that, and we had a wonderful time together getting to know each other a little bit. Cool. So that's how I know about Lauren's background, but he writes in the chat, he says, firefighters are often referred to as hose monkeys. What's a big deal? I don't know if I would refer to a firefighter as a hose monkey.
Never.
I don't think I would say that. Certainly not to their face. But yeah, the monkeys comment on Nenshi, I'm going to go ahead and declare it to be much ado about nothing, but a lot of people probably won't care about my perspective on this because I'm an offender in this department. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Hey, speaking of firefighters, How cool. On Thursday and Friday of last week, you probably know this if you're a regular, we tried a little something different. We wanted to put some of our best of content in front of you. So we did a political edition, which was really great. We took like the meat, like just the best segments, the highlights of some of our top political interviews of the past 6 or 8 weeks, including the Prime Minister, the Premier of Alberta, Jobs Minister Randy Boissonneau, Suyus Mayor Sue McCordoff, who just, I think, impressed all of us with her no BS approach to politicians taking abuse. She says that's not happening anymore on my watch. And then we brought you the boiled down absolute highlights of our conversations with all of the NDP leadership candidates. So it's kind of a cool episode that aired on Thursday. And then on Friday, our Planet Protectors episode, if you want to go back and listen to that, the best of our conversations with people that are working to save planet Earth. We talked about plastic. We talked about wildfire. We talked about water. What was cool about these best ofs, these Thursday and Friday episodes, is that we live streamed them like a regular show, and I was able to be in the chat the entire time and to take questions from people, to share in conversation. It was really a wonderful thing, and I think that we're going to try that again sometime.
That was great.
Because our numbers were still there. We had a great crew of people live streaming this and in the chat, and I was really enjoying it. And we had a chance to follow up with Alberta Rancher, who's often in our chat. Alberta Rancher had told us that based on some of the concerns around what this wildfire season might look like, based on obviously the investment in their ranch, and also just the reality around wildland firefighting, a lack of resources, generally speaking. This is not taking away from the amazing work that's done by these men and women that fight these fires. But Alberta Rancher had told us that they had invested in a fire truck for their ranch. Like, they bought it personally and hold it privately. So in the chat, over these couple of days, I said, well, would you send us some photos of your fire truck? I'm envisioning like an F-350 or something like that with some wildland gear on it. Check out these photos that Alberta Rancher sent in to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Said to us, as a matter of fact, they said, we've actually bought 3 of them. And check out these trucks. These are like legit fire trucks that have been pulled out of service, but these are trucks that you would expect to see. I mean, obviously, they got some miles on them, but these are trucks that you would expect to see in like major city centers. And these are steps that property landowners, business owners like Alberta Rancher in our chat are investing in. I was blown away to see that. Wow. Like 3 big rigs.
That's crazy.
Privately owned on a ranch to make sure that they're set for wildfire season. Pretty insane.
What's wild about our best ofs too is I was listening to Planet Protectors, obviously, and seeing you in the chat. And then the next morning, Saturday, we wake up and it's right in our face. There's that smoke right there.
Isn't that true,
And
eh?
it was, I don't know about you, if you were outside Saturday morning. I was outside at about 10 a.m. It was really bad. You couldn't even really stand out there. Sunday was a little better. Last night, we were doing the Oilers game up on the balcony. Everyone came up. All the staff had masks or gave us masks. We didn't wear them. But Saturday was really bad. We had our air conditioner reinstalled, the one for the summer, on Friday. And Saturday, we turned it on in the morning and just can't even use it. I stepped outside. I was like, this is crazy. We just aired a best of about people sounding this alarm, and here it is right in our face.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a reminder, and I hate to say it, but we're just getting started. So make sure you check that out. That was Trina Moyles, by the way, who's our wildfire expert that we spoke to as part of our Planet Protectors episode that was released just a few days ago. If you want to check that out, she for 7 years worked on a fire tower in a lookout capacity. She's also a journalist and author, and she's written about it. So she's got a real sort of a breadth of experience there, which is absolutely fantastic. On the other side of this break, we're going to pause for just over a minute to recognize the incredible partners that have made this show possible. And on the other side of that, we're going to introduce you to a VIP. This is a visitor from Holland who's in Canada right now, and he is doing, as part of a group of people, certainly I know he'll share the recognition here, but he's doing remarkable work recognizing and preserving the memory and the celebration of the contributions of Canadian soldiers during World War II, in particular in the liberation of Holland. This is an amazing story as we lead up to the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Dennis Meijeringh is going to join me here in studio in just 1 minute. But first, I want to let you know that this episode does not happen without the support of Pathways Alliance. And as we talk about emissions, as we talk about climate change, I want to direct your attention to pathwaysalliance.com. That's where you can learn more about what the 6 biggest oil sands companies in Canada are doing in carbon capture and storage. They're studying, testing, and advancing dozens of new technologies to reduce emissions. This is all part of recognizing that global energy demands are changing. And of course, as those global demands and markets change and the world looks for responsibly produced oil, we want to send that message that we know that is what Alberta can provide. They're doing this in partnership with the different levels of government, provincial and federal. You can learn more about the project by checking out pathwaysalliance.ca. If you're looking for a change of pace, you're looking for a new job, you're looking to maybe get back and make good on those post-secondary plans that you've always had, but there have been barriers in the way. And this is just real life stuff. Maybe you don't live anywhere close to a university. Maybe you found the cost to be prohibitive. Maybe you have things pulling on your time, like you're caring for your parents, or you're caring for your kids, or you've got a full-time job. You can open your options with the online offerings at Athabasca University. They've got hundreds of programs and courses that are guaranteed to fit what you're looking for. That's all part of the AU Advantage, including an amazing MBA program. You can check it out and get started with an application at athabascau.ca. And while it's not our favorite thing to talk about communities impacted by wildfire, we want to make sure that you're prepared if that is your reality. Complete Care Restoration right now has their teams working still on rebuilding communities that have been impacted by wildfires in years past, and they're ready to respond 24/7 during this 2024 wildfire season. They also cover flood repairs. They're going to have you covered if you've discovered mold or asbestos in your property, whether it's a residence, a commercial property, or otherwise. Complete Care Restoration has certified professionals ready to restore your property and rebuild your peace of mind. You can find them online at completecarerestoration.ca. Well, the 80th anniversary of D-Day is approaching, and of course we know that across Canada and around the world, people will be recognizing the sacrifices and the incredible contributions made by soldiers, including thousands of Canadian men and women who were there on the beaches of Normandy. We're talking about Juno Beach. We're going to talk about the liberation of Holland, a time in history where if you were not alive, it's hard to imagine the magnitude of that victory, the idea of what may have been had D-Day not been a success. And of course, right now, it's an amazing honor to welcome to our studio from the Dutch legacy keepers of Canadian heroes. He's visiting Canada right now from Holland. Dennis Meijeringh, welcome to Real Talk.
Thank you for inviting me here.
Yeah, Dennis, come nice and close to your microphone. Okay, no problem. How did I do on the pronunciation of Meijeringh?
Meijeringh.
Meijeringh.
Yeah. I think a lot of Canadian Dutch can pronounce it very well.
Yeah, there is a very special relationship between the Dutch and Canadian people, isn't there?
Yes, of course. We have been occupied 5 years between 1940 and 1945 by the Germans, and we have been liberated by the Canadians, and they stayed at least a year in the Netherlands. So there are a lot of connections, a lot of brides coming over to Canada with the soldiers. So yes, there is a big connection with Canada.
Well, people are going to be saying, they'll see this on YouTube and they'll say, hang on, Dennis is a young guy.
Yeah.
What does Dennis know about the occupation of Holland in the 1940s? Why is this so front of mind for you? Why is this something that has meant so much to you?
It's the stories of your grandparents who telling about what it's been to be occupied. The pressure of the Germans you cannot do what you want to do. Just like Corona, you have to stay inside, but with more pressure, you have to hide. My grandmother has to hide under crowds for not being catch by the German army. My other grandma moves weapons from weapon droppings to her brother who was in the forced resistance. So yes, the stories comes and it become my interest from what it's been and what people did in that war. It's amazing. It's really the great generation what the soldiers of the Canadian, English, British did for us. It's amazing and still goes on.
Your village in northern Holland, is it Zuidlaren? Is that
Zuidlaren, yes.
Zuidlaren.
Yes.
This was a village liberated mid-April, April 13th of 1944 by Canadian soldiers of the 2nd Canadian Division, the 8th Reconnaissance Regiment. Many young men from Alberta, from our home province in Saskatchewan, east of here. Many of those men still lay in Holland, laid to rest in Holland.
Yes, we have
never made it home.
We have two big Canadian cemeteries, one in Holton and one in Groesbeek, and you can see it on the picture. It's big there. We have every Christmas Eve we put candles on the graves to commemorate this man who fought for us.
Every Christmas Eve.
Every Christmas Eve, and we started in 2015 to put them not only on the Canadian graves but on all the Allied graves over Holland.
Now, you and your wife, Yvonne, my understanding is, spend hundreds of hours every year, planning liberation festivals and events, restoring World War II era vehicles. There's an amazing photo that I've seen there, reenacting in full Canadian and Allied soldier battle dress, teaching children about the liberation of Holland. Why is it so important to you that the next generation, the generation younger than you, understands this period of time?
I think that they need to know why they have the freedom. We see also the protest now of people, but if you have been liberated and you've been occupied, you know what it means to be free, to have the right to protest. But where it comes from, that is what is going on. You have to know where it comes from.
So this is something that do you think that young children in Holland will continue this incredible connection? And you talk to anyone, I mean, including Dutch Canadians, and they will recognize this special relationship. Is this something that you think will last in perpetuity? Can you see this another 80 years from now still being a thing, the special connection between the Dutch and Canada?
I think so, yes. I met a Canadian 4 years ago, and he says every Dutchman needs at least one Canadian flag in his house. So it's something between each other.
Can you talk to us about your meeting? I understand you had a very special meeting with a World War II veteran.
Yes.
In a private home. Chris and Lisa Labasia in Edmonton here, I know have been huge supporters of the flag sponsorship program, the Juno Beach Centre. A lot of what we're talking about here today, and this is something that, for personal reasons to them, has meant very much. This meeting with this veteran, I believe his name is Marty Jones.
Yes.
What was that like for you to talk to him?
It's a special. That is the man who did it. Just 19 years old when he was on the D-Day day. What they did is incredible. They stand up. They come from a free country to liberate us, the European people. Why did they do it? They volunteered it. They were not pressed in force. So it tickles still if I speak with that man, what he did.
Yeah.
His service over 3 years, what the Canadian soldiers do for us at that time, it's amazing.
It's I saw some brief video. We have just a snippet of him kind of holding court and telling you stories. And it just seems like everybody kind of just on the edge of their seats here to listen to someone now, recanting a tale of when he was 19 years old. Did he say something in particular that really stuck with you?
Yeah, it's especially when the wounded man came from the beaches back. They had to take him out of the water. He was in a landingscraft ship, which put on the infantry on the smaller boats, and the small boats came back with the wounded people and so it's not woke what we have now, not a discussion of tins and things like that, but it's the real thing. It's
the real thing.
That's what matters.
Substance to the conversation, not coffee lids.
No coffee lids and things like that. No, the real thing. Liberation. Be free. Can speak what you want. Do what you want. Not forced labor. That's what it means to be liberated.
Yeah.
So we have to commemorate these people who did that.
You talk about forced labor. I mean, I think for, there were people that lived, 5 years or longer in concentration camps. The life for for the locals, obviously we could talk about this for hours, to be obvious, but life for Germans after the war, lives made difficult. This obviously, I think we take a look at the period of time we're talking to you now, a Remembrance Day of sorts. What do you refer to it as in Holland on May 4th, May 5th?
May 4th, we have 2 days. May 4th is we commemorate the people who died for it, and on the 5th day we fire we had a big fest,
like a Liberation Day.
Yeah, real.
So it's a back-to-back recognition.
Yes.
And then obviously coming up, we're approaching the 80th anniversary of D-Day. As you know, here in Canada, our Remembrance Day on November 11th. Do you think that for Canadians that have lived here, that have never, perhaps aside from hearing moving stories or remembrance from veterans, but have never seen firsthand the impact of war on a society and really what this does to people. Do we do enough in your assessment to recognize those sacrifices?
I don't think so. I think you should appreciate what you have more than you do now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Buy that flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're referencing the Juno Beach Centre. Let me put that back up again. You're headed there, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're headed over to Normandy, is that right?
Yes, to commemorate the Canadians on Remembrance Day in 2022.
And this is coming up just like in the next couple of weeks. You're joining Canadians, including people from Edmonton. Yeah. And you're going to be headed over there to France.
Of course. And in September we do it again with reenacting 30 Corps from Leopoldsburg to Arnhem, with what was the push to the bridge in Arnhem, and we do it next year in April when the Canadians come to our village. We are back in business.
Would you describe your conviction here and your participation in this as that of the average Dutch citizen, or does your commitment to this maybe go a little bit above and beyond the average person?
No, yes, I think so. I think I am above.
Yeah.
But when I did 2 big events in my village, and you see everywhere the Canadian flags, the Dutch flags waving around. Just still, even on May the 4th and May the 5th, the flags are going out in Holland to celebrate our liberation.
Really, really amazing stuff. It's an honor to have you here in studio.
Thank you.
When we heard that you were here, and I heard, some of the experiences you were having here and recanting these tales and connecting with World War II veterans, and of course our sponsorship or our support of that flag sponsorship program, I said, we got to get Dennis on the show. So thank you for waking up early today. I know it was a late night for you. You were in the house last night.
Yes,
you were at Rogers Place last night.
For the first time, a hockey match, and then this game. It's amazing.
Your first ever hockey game. And you see an all-Canadian playoff battle.
Yeah, we do soccer in Holland.
Yeah. How do the crowds compare? How does the noise and the enthusiasm compare between Dutch football crowds, soccer crowds, and Canadian playoff hockey crowds? How would you compare them?
I think that is the same, but we have the problem with hooligans. So when somebody, we cannot match one of the other team supporters with us. Yeah. So there should be a fight anyway. Okay, so hang on a second. So the difference being your hooligans are in the stands and our hooligans are on the ice. Yeah. Do you have an opinion on the cross-check that the world's greatest player, Connor McDavid, sustained last night? Did you see that firsthand? It happened quickly, I know. Not firsthand. I saw it just on television, but it shouldn't be on a play. It should be rough but fair. Yeah, rough but fair. Yeah. I like that. Hey, Dennis, it's a real honor to have you here. Yeah. And thank you for your advocacy in all of this. And on behalf of my fellow Canadians, to you and your fellow Dutch citizens, thank you for preserving the memory. Lest we forget. Of the Canadians, lest we forget. Amen. Yeah. Really remarkable stuff. And people like you serve to remind me of the important work that's being done out there. And this is a real encouragement, and I'm so impressed by it. People can check out more about that flag sponsorship program by visiting junobeach.org. And who knows, if you're one of those Canadians that will be there recognizing and commemorating, honoring the 80th anniversary of D-Day, potentially you see Dennis and Yvonne and their group on the beach. be there.
Thank you for doing this, Dennis.
Thank you for inviting us.
You bet. Again, that's junobeach.org. Hang out with me for a second. We wrap up every episode, the first episode of every week, with something positive.
Okay.
And so you've seen us complaining about coffee lids and police officers swinging batons.
Yeah.
So
protests.
So here's something chill.
Okay.
Here's something fun, courtesy of our friends at Kuby Renewable Energy. Every week to kick things off, we find a silver lining. We recognize a random act of kindness or something that made us smile. We harness positive energy and we renew our faith in humanity. It's Kuby Renewable Energy presenting Positive Reflections, and I absolutely love this. Our friends at Vivid Print, which is an awesome independent business in our home city of Edmonton, in the Old Strathcona White Avenue area, are picking up on an idea. This was originally floated, Johnny, by a former colleague of ours. Everybody knows and loves Lauren Hunter, the award-winning radio personality in Edmonton. Well, Lauren had an idea to recognize the great Edmonton born and raised international superstar Nathan Fillion, everybody's favorite actor. And Lauren has long been advocating for the Nathan Fillion Civilian Pavilion, which she thought was somewhere where people could go and recognize Nathan Fillion. Celebrate his work in Edmonton's theater scene, in Canada's arts and culture scene, and then, of course, with his superstar career now stateside and around the world. Well, we are thrilled to let you know that not only did the Old Strathcona Business Association and Vivid Print work together to install the Nathan Fillion Civilian Pavilion, but now Nathan Fillion himself has traveled down 82nd Avenue in Edmonton, his old stomping grounds, and Nathan Fillion has officially visited the Nathan Fillion Civilian Pavilion. So a shout out to Lauren Hunter at Sonic, to Mark and his team at Vivid Print, and to everybody at the Old Strathcona Business Association for making this happen. I was starting to worry that this was never going to come to fruition. This was never going to happen.
Well, we were talking about it today, and I was going to mention it, but then I was like, I don't know if it really happened. And then
this is real.
You sealed everything with a bow today.
There's no green screen. This is not fake. This is real video of Nathan Fillion visiting, and I'm just going to say it one more time because it's so fun to say.
Amazing.
The Nathan Fillion Civilian Pavilion. Positive Reflections is presented by our friends at Kuby Renewable Energy. You can get a free solar quote anytime by visiting kubyenergy.ca, and you can send us your positive reflection. Dennis, you could have been the positive reflection today.
Yeah.
You can send us an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Make sure you put positive reflections in the subject line. Thanks for making time for us, friends. Coming up on Tuesday's episode of Real Talk, photojournalist. She's, as a matter of fact, an internationally award-winning photojournalist. Amber Bracken's going to join us live in studio to talk about her feature in Alberta Views. It's Run for the Children, an amazing photo essay on activism, that from Amber Bracken. Make it a great Monday, friends. Thanks for checking out this episode of Real Talk. Share it with your friends. Smash that like button, and we'll talk to you soon.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harmon Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.